Hey everybody, this is Peter with Cooking with Peter. Today I'm going to teach you how to make cranberry walnut no-knead bread. You don't need a mixer, you don't need a machine, and this is a super good recipe for the holiday season. So let's get started. I want to give some shout outs to the nice people who are watching the videos and who are making some comments and telling me where they're from. Number one is Benjamin in Madrid, Spain. Benjamin, thank you so much for watching the videos. Then we have Omar and Facundo in Ibiza, Spain, making some great comments and lots of encouragement. I really appreciate it. I want to give a big shout out to my former neighbor, Shirley in Mesa, Arizona. Shirley, thank you so much for watching the videos. And by the way, this bread video is for you, because I'm not there to make your Christmas time bread this year, but you can make it yourself. Just follow these directions. We also have a guy named Fred from Ohio. So Fred, I think you're called Ohio Fred on your YouTube handle. So welcome and thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to go over the list of ingredients you're going to need to make this no-knead cranberry walnut bread. First of all, you're going to need bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour, but bread flour is specifically made for bread. I highly recommend that you use bread flour. We're going to be using 3 cups plus 2 tablespoons of bread flour. Then we have 12 ounces of water. We're going to be using some bread machine yeast, sometimes it's referred to as regular yeast, honey, salt. Of course, we're going to have cranberries in our cranberry walnut bread, and we're going to have walnuts in our cranberry walnut bread. Also, I want to point out to you, these are 2 types of Dutch ovens. This one is a cast iron type of Dutch oven, and this is a stoneware type of Dutch oven. You can use either one when making this bread. I do recommend this one if you want a round loaf, and this type if you want a more oblong loaf. That's going to be your choice. They both work pretty much the same, and we're going to go over that in just a few minutes. Let me tell you that I've been making no-knead bread of all different types for many, many years. And I want to give a big shout out to a guy on YouTube called Artisan Bread with Steve. He's the one who taught me by watching his videos many years ago. So if you can, check out Steve's videos. They are super good. The one thing he did teach me was put the water in the bowl first. Some recipes will have you put in the dry ingredients first, and I really disagree with that. I agree with Steve that the water needs to go in first. This is just 12 ounces of regular tap water. The next thing we're going to be putting in is a half teaspoon of yeast. Of course, you want to use yeast that's still working, as far as it's still alive. And I know this one is because I used it just last night. So just a half a teaspoon of yeast and just sprinkle that over the water. The next thing we'll put in is about 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm not going to measure this. I'm just going to guess that it's about 1 tablespoon of honey. Then from here, we're going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We're going to be using 1.5 teaspoons. I typically just use about 1.5 teaspoons like you're seeing here. And just sprinkle that over the water like you're seeing me do here. All right, so let me put this back together. We're finished with that. Now I'm going to use a whisk and I'm just going to mix these ingredients up just like you're seeing me do. I'm just trying to dissolve all those yeast and salt and honey into the water, and it looks really good. The next step is to put in the bread flour. I'm going to be using 3 cups and 2 tablespoons. Now let me show you how to do this. You want to make sure that you're scooping the flour into here and you're leveling it off. You can use your finger to level it off, or you can use a knife. Also, when you're going to put the flour into the bowl, just come over to the side like you're seeing here. If you just pop it in the middle, it's going to splash up on you. You don't want that. So just like you're seeing here, just level it off, just like that. Put it in here. And just like that. Now, we need to put in 2 tablespoons more. Again, just take it like this and level it off. 2 tablespoons. just like that. Now, here comes the hard part of this recipe. I want you to take a spatula like this, or any type of cooking utensil. I want you to use this side for mixing up the dough. You can use something like this, you can use things like this, whatever you have. You just don't want to use this wide piece right now. You want to use this piece right now. Now we're just going to mix the flour into the water, salt, honey, and yeast. Just mix it all up, and it's going to start hydrating. And as we mix it up, it's just going to be, it takes about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. It's going to start all coming together into what I call a shaggy ball. Now, at this point, we're going to put in some cranberries and the walnuts. So we're going to put in about 3/4 of a cup. And again, I really don't measure it. You can if you want. I'm pretty good at guessing about 3/4 of a cup. Just like this, put them in. Now we're using walnuts for our cranberry walnut bread, just like that, and just put them in. Now we're going to mix this all together, and you want to turn the dough like you're seeing me do here. Just turn it around, and what you're trying to do is just mix in those cranberries and walnuts into the dough. And that's all we're doing, just spin it around, flip it around like this, and we're mixing it together. Now, by the way, I want to tell you that you wouldn't have to use cranberries and walnuts. If you wanted to make an olive bread, at the point where I put in the cranberries and walnuts, you could have put in olives. You could use a different type of olive, black olives, green olives. Put in about a tablespoon of olive oil, and you could make olive bread. It's the same principle as this. But today we're doing the cranberry and walnut bread, and you can see that I'm just bringing it all together just like this. Now, I'm finished making this bread. No machine, no mixer, just a few little tools, a few simple ingredients. Now this dough rather, is going to have to sit on the counter for 12 to 18 hours. What I typically do is I make the dough at night, and it will rise up overnight. So 12 to 18 hours is what it's going to take. So I'm going to cover this up, and I'm going to set it over the counter. I made one for us to use today, last night, so I'm going to bring that one over and we'll continue on. We'll be back in a few minutes. The next steps in preparing the No-Knead Cranberry Walnut Bread is to take a piece of parchment paper and just lay it out here. Now you want to flour this parchment paper pretty well. So let me show you what I mean by pretty well. Because if you don't put enough flour here, the bread dough is going to stick pretty badly. So just move the flour around like you see me doing. Now I want you to take a little more flour and just put it here on the sides of the dough. And by the way, this is the dough that I actually made last night for this video. And now you just want to take the dough. By the way, don't punch the dough down. Don't push down. Just let it come out on its own. And we're going to put this all here on the parchment paper. Just like this. Okay, we'll set this aside. Now, you're going to notice that this dough is very sticky. This is a high hydration type of dough. It means it has a lot of water content. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour and put this on my hands. And now I'm just going to fold this over like you're seeing here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to form a bit of a ball, but I'm just folding these over, and now I'm going to pick it up and come in just like this. Now take your hands and cup like you see me doing, and you're just going to make a little ball. That's it. I put a little bit of flour underneath so I can get this off here easily. Now we're finished with this step. This dough is going to also get a little bigger, but it needs to sit here and proof for about 30 minutes. I'm going to wash my hands and show you the next step. I'll be right back. Okay, now I have just put the dough onto the parchment paper. I went and washed my hands, got the flour and dough off, and then I also cleaned the bowl that this was in a few minutes ago. I want you to pick up the bread dough with the parchment paper, and for now, just set it into this bowl. And the reason for this is that I'm going to use the bowl to help mold that dough, and so that it doesn't spread out. Remember, it's a high hydration, meaning high water content dough, and if you don't brace it like this, the dough has a tendency to flatten out, and your bread is going to also flatten out. So we're going to let this set for a little while, about 30 minutes, and I'm going to put a towel over this just so that it stays warm, or warmer, and then we'll be back. Now, I want to talk to you about the Dutch oven. This one is the one that I'm going to use. I have used this for about 10 years or so. Dutch ovens can be very expensive by a French company, Lay something. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but you don't have to buy the really expensive Dutch ovens. This one is made by a company called Tramontina, correct? And I bought it on Amazon for like 40 bucks. Also during the holiday season, you can typically buy really nice sets of the Dutch ovens, typically 2 from Costco, Sam's Club for like $49 for 2. So that's a really good deal. But this Dutch oven is made out of cast iron. And the reason you want this is that it's heavy, the lid is heavy, and this is going to create an oven within the oven. And you know, bakers, professional bakers, they have big ovens that inject steam into the bread, and that's what gives it a great crust. But that's what this is going to do. We're going to heat this up for at least 30 minutes in a very hot oven, and then later we'll take it out, put this dough into here, and bake it off. So let me show you the next step. I'll be right back. Now I'm going to put the Dutch oven into my regular oven. I'm going to turn the oven to 475 degrees. I'm going to put the Dutch oven inside, and the oven and the Dutch oven are going to heat up together until they reach 475 degrees. That's going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. So we'll go ahead and do that step now. Turn it on, 475, hit start. The other thing to know is that you want to put the Dutch oven into the lower rack or the middle rack, but it needs distance or height to be able to get it in or out. So just like that, I'm going to close the door, let the oven and the Dutch oven heat up to 475 degrees, and then we'll be ready to continue and then bake the bread. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, the next step to our no-knead cranberry walnut bread is to take the Dutch oven out of the oven, which has been preheating at 475 degrees for about the last 30 or 40 minutes. So let me get the Dutch oven out of the oven. I'll put it right here. This is extremely hot, so just know that. Got to use pot holders. So let me get one more thing. I'm going to set the lid here on this. I don't want to set it on my granite because it's so hot. And wow, that's hot. Now this is the bread dough. I'm simply going to take the parchment paper like this and set this into the Dutch oven. I'm going to spread out the parchment paper a bit. Now we need to make a slash into the dough. Let me get my shears. You can use a knife. I just use regular scissors and I cut just like this. I'm making kind of a cross. Now remember, when you cut, you must tuck. So any kind of points, you want to tuck those back in. The reason that we're making the cut is we're giving the dough the place for any air to escape. All right, so, or steam to escape, rather. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to put the bread back in this super hot oven for 30 minutes. Then I'm going to remove the top, put it back in, and let it go another 10 or 15 minutes until it gets to be the brown color that I want. So now I'm just going to move this back in, and we'll be back in about 30 to 40 minutes. We're coming down to some of the last steps of our no-knead cranberry walnut bread. My next step now that the bread has been cooking for about 30 minutes in the oven, I'm going to go take the Dutch oven and the bread out of the oven and take the top off. We are almost there. I'm going to put it back in the oven and let the bread go for about 5 or 6 more minutes, maybe 10, because I want this bread to get really toasty and brown. So I'm going to set the bread back in the oven, and we'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to watch it and see how it gets, and I'll be taking it out very soon. But here's where we are so far. All right, guys, we are 95% finished. I've been letting the bread cook uncovered for about 5 or 6 minutes, and you can see the beautiful color that this bread has become. So now I'm going to just take the bread out of the Dutch oven and let it sit over here. Now the bread is extremely hot, but if you want to make sure that the bread is cooked all the way, you can use a thermometer like I have here, and the bread needs to be at least about 200 to 205 degrees. We're at 195, 196, 7. You can see that it's going to hit 200. So yeah, there we are. So that tells you that the bread is completely cooked on the inside. Bread needs to be at around 200 to 205 when it comes out of the oven. If it's less than that, go ahead and put it back in and let it go up to 200 to 205. This bread is now completely cooked. However, it's hot, and we need for it to cool off all the way. So it's going to take about a good hour for that bread to cool off. Then you can slice the bread up, serve it right away, or if you want to save it into the freezer, what I recommend that you do is go ahead and slice the bread into slices, and then you can freeze the bread and then just take out the slices out of the plastic bag you're going to store it in, out of the freezer, whenever you're ready for it. Let it sit on the counter for like 10 minutes max, and it's going to be ready to go. All right. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I hope you make this beautiful no-knead cranberry walnut bread for your family. You can see I use no machines, I use no mixer. I just did it all in the bowls with a few simple tools and put it in the Dutch oven where it cooked very, very nicely. You would pay $10, $12 for this piece of bread at a bakery. So you can do it yourself. It's going to cost you about $2. All right. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, if you like what you saw today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give us a shout out. Also leave a comment. Do me a favor and leave your name in your comment and what city you're watching the video from. And I'll be sure to give you a shout out on our next videos. Thanks again for watching. We really appreciate it.